Hello, I'm Rachel Rudolph, the Extension Vegetable Specialist for the University of Kentucky, and today I'm going to discuss the ins and outs of lettuce production for Kentucky. Lettuce is a fast-growing, cool season crop that does well in both spring and fall here in Kentucky. It is also a very common crop in high tunnel production across the state, which allows us to grow lettuce nearly year-round. There are four types of lettuce: crisphead, butterhead, cause or romaine, and looseleaf or bunching. Crisphead is also commonly known as iceberg lettuce. Crisphead lettuce has large, solid heads with crisp, brittle leaves. It is very sensitive to heat and is not adapted to warmer climates, and so typically not grown here in Kentucky or the Southeast. It does tolerate shipping and handling well. Butterhead has two subtypes, Bibb and Boston. It has smooth, soft, pliable leaves that form a loose head. The leaves bruise and tear easily and require a great deal of care during shipping and handling. It is best for local or regional markets. There are several Butterhead cultivars that grow well in Kentucky. Romaine, also known as cause lettuce, has long, narrow leaves and upright growth. Romaine is more tolerant to unfavorable weather conditions than crisphead or butterhead, and it ships moderately well. Looseleaf lettuce is also referred to as bunching lettuce. It does not form heads and can be harvested multiple times over the course of a season. It is also referred to as cut and come again lettuce. It is more tolerant of environmental variation than the head lettuce types, but the leaves do bruise easily. Looseleaf lettuce can be direct seeded, and in some cases even broadcast into a bed. But head lettuce should be transplanted. Lettuce is commonly seeded into 72 or 128 cell trays for transplanting. Whatever cell size you choose, the goal is to have a healthy root ball at the time of planting. The transplant should be easily removed from its cell in the tray, with the potting soil around the roots holding together and not crumbling apart. Please see the seeding and transplant production video for more details and guidance on transplant production specifically. Lettuce can be grown in both open field and high tunnels. Plasticulture is common in open field production. This includes raised beds with drip tape and plastic mulch. Beds are usually 24 to 30 inches wide, with 2 or 3 rows of lettuce per bed. Flat ground with woven weed mat is common for smaller scale production, especially in high tunnels, but can also be implemented in open fields. Holes are burned into the weed mat at the specific distance for production of certain crops, and the same weed mat can be used for multiple seasons. Typically, 3 to 4 rows of lettuce would be planted within a flat bed with a walkway in between beds. Drip tape should be installed before putting weed mat down. There may also be bare raised beds, meaning they have drip tape but no plastic mulch or weed mat. In this system, weed management would be critical and would likely include a combination of hand and mechanical weeding. A soil sample should be collected and a soil test received and reviewed prior to planting or putting down plastic mulch or weed mat. See our soil sampling and testing video for more guidance. Lettuce requires approximately 60 pounds of phosphorus per acre and 300 pounds of potassium per acre. These nutrients should be applied prior to planting or putting down any type of cover. Depending on the lettuce type, lettuce needs anywhere from 50 to 100 pounds per acre of nitrogen. This is equivalent to approximately 1.15 pounds of nitrogen per 1,000 square feet. 50% of that nitrogen can be applied prior to planting. The remaining 50% should be divided equally among the weeks in the season and fertigated through the drip lines beginning 10 to 14 days after transplanting. Head lettuce in-row spacing for lettuce transplanting is typically 9 to 12 inches, with 12 inches between rows within the same bed. Loose leaf lettuce may be grown very closely together, and as stated previously, could even be broadcast into a bed. Optimum temperatures for lettuce growth are 66 to 73 degrees Fahrenheit during the day and 45 to 52 degrees Fahrenheit at night. If temperatures exceed 80 degrees Fahrenheit, this could cause seed stalk development, also known as bolting. The photo to the left shows the beginning of a flower forming in the middle of the lettuce head. This is the beginning of bolting. Even at this point, the leaves are already bitter and the plants are unmarketable. Below 45 degrees Fahrenheit, growth will slow and lettuce is more easily injured by freezing temperatures as they approach maturity. Row cover should be utilized when temperatures drop below 45 degrees Fahrenheit. The addition of hoops to support the row cover is helpful. Hoops keep the row cover from touching the lettuce. The hoops can also be used to place netting to keep birds and rodents from feeding on the lettuce, which is something that we have struggled with in the past. Transplant dates range from mid-August to mid-September in the fall for Central Kentucky. Transplant dates for Western Kentucky are typically 10 days later in the fall and 10 days earlier in the spring because it is often warmer compared to Central Kentucky. Eastern Kentucky typically stays cooler for longer in the spring compared to Central Kentucky, which makes their planting dates often 10 days later in the spring and 10 days earlier in the fall. If growing in a high tunnel, planting can be 2 or 3 weeks earlier in the spring compared to field production and 2 or 3 weeks later in the fall. Be sure to have row cover on hand to protect your crop when temperatures drop below 45 degrees. Planting date can greatly influence crop yield, which will affect profit margins. In a trial conducted in Lexington in 2024, we evaluated butterhead lettuce across planting dates in both high tunnels and fields. This bar graph shows the results from that trial. F is for field and HT is for high tunnel. The planting dates were August 23rd, August 30th, September 6th, and September 13th. So for example, F1 was lettuce planted in the field on August 23rd. HT3, for example, is lettuce planted in a high tunnel on September 6th. The solid bars are the yield of the harvest from the lettuce planted on those dates. Within 1 or 2 days of harvesting that lettuce was transplanted again in these same plots. The striped bars are the yield of the harvest from the second plantings. Results are the average of 3 plots for each planting date and location. For example, F1 was lettuce planted in the open field on August 23rd, which was the first planting date of the season. That lettuce was harvested approximately 30 days after transplanting, and then more lettuce was transplanted soon after and harvested. All plants in all plots were harvested by November 25th. August 23rd and August 30th were the best planting dates in 2024 for open field production, as those dates provided enough time for another healthy second crop to be harvested. So F1 and F2. F1 had a total of 29 pounds that season between the 2 plantings, and F2 produced more than 25 pounds. HT3, high tunnel planting date from September 6th, yield was nearly the same as F2, 25 pounds. Even though high tunnel 3 had a lower yield from the first planting, it had a higher yield in the second planting, which compensated. It is important to remember that this is only 1 year of data. Weather and temperature influence days to harvest and could change from year to year. Planting date recommendations are typically a range for that reason. Time to harvest depends on the type of lettuce, the cultivar, management, and accumulated heat units, which are determined by daily temperatures. When it is time to harvest, harvest when the weather is cool, either early in the morning or late in the afternoon. Use clean tools and washed hands or clean gloves while harvesting. Baby greens should be harvested young and small while they are still tender. There will be multiple harvests over several weeks. Head lettuce will have one harvest. Heads should be cut from the base of the plant close to the soil. The bottom leaves that were in contact with soil will likely need to be removed. These should be removed before plants go into storage. Under proper conditions, lettuce can be stored for approximately 2 weeks. Romaine can be stored for nearly 3 weeks. Store lettuce at 32 degrees Fahrenheit and 95% relative humidity. Lettuce should not be stored with any crops that produce or give off ethylene, such as tomatoes, muskmelons, peppers, or apples. See our post-harvest storage of lettuce video to watch what happens when lettuce is not stored properly. In Kentucky, there is no requirement to wash any produce that is sold as a raw agricultural commodity, such as head lettuce. If a grower is selling lettuce as ready to eat, then washing would be required. There is also an infographic on post-harvest lettuce care and management. This can be found on the Center for Crop Diversification website or the Kentucky Horticulture Council website. The infographic can be put up somewhere for farm crew to look at. It's intended to be short and sweet and get to the point and can be a helpful reminder of what to do. Lettuce is a cool season crop that can be grown in spring and fall in Kentucky and in both open field and high tunnel production systems. Planting date recommendations are based on several years of trials and input from experienced growers. However, it is important to base each year's actual planting date on the current temperatures or weather and the temperature thresholds of that crop. A planting date can strongly impact crop yield and quality. Handling of lettuce during harvest and post-harvest storage are just as important as the management of the crop throughout the season. Proper handling and storage ensure the crop has optimal shelf life and quality. Resources include the Vegetable Crop Extension and Research website, which houses all our vegetable-related resources. Of course, the post-harvest handling of lettuce fact sheet infographic, which can be found on the UK Center for Crop Diversification website or the Kentucky Horticulture Council website. And then UK ID 36, the Vegetable Production Guide for commercial growers. Funding for the creation of this video was provided by a specialty crop block grant through the Kentucky Department of Agriculture and the United States Department of Agriculture.